Guys, for joining us for our special live stream regarding today's severe weather. Of course, we do have the potential at strong to severe thunderstorms as we head into this afternoon, this evening, and early overnight tonight. Now, got a bunch of colors behind me. What does this mean? Well, these are the severe weather threats produced by the Storm Prediction Center. There's a team of meteorologists up in Norman, Oklahoma. They always paint these beautiful pictures for us, ranking the severe weather threat from a rank 1 to a rank 5. So the rank 1, we actually have some of that on the map, not here in East Texas, but kind of outlining this level 2 slight risk here in East Texas. The marginal risk is surrounding that at this point. And that is a level 1 threat, but we are under is a level 2 threat. Now, this has not happened recently in our area, so this is springtime here in East Texas. We will see several of these slight risks over the next couple of months, and it is something that will always be noteworthy and something that could create some significant severe weather for us. But I would say, yes, it's going to be a noisy day across East Texas, but I don't expect this to be the worst severe weather outbreak that we've ever seen. Now, a couple of severe thunderstorms, I do expect that this evening. I just don't think it's going to be anything, compared to what we've seen in years past when comparing severe weather events. But we have this at this time of year, and you always need to be weather aware. I don't want anybody to be caught off guard in an event like this. So make sure you download the East Texas Storm Team app or have another way to get those weather warnings on your phone. I know a lot of kiddos do have spring break this week. That's good news. But if you don't, make sure you're bringing that way to get those weather warnings, via your smartphone maybe. Maybe you have like soccer, baseball, softball practice, something like that. Just make sure you have your smartphone handy, and if a warning's issued, you'll be all right. And then for the kiddos that do have spring break, I know I was like this. I would always want to hang out with my friends from school over spring break because we could. So if you're doing that, before you hang out tonight, I would actually download that East Texas Storm Team app and remind a couple of your buddies to do it too, just so, in case a warning, a severe thunderstorm warning or a tornado warning is issued, you have that information and you could seek shelter. But let's get right back to it. This is a level 2 slight risk on a scale of 1 to 5. Damaging wind gusts are possible, 60 to 70 miles per hour particularly. And then we also have the threat of large hail a little earlier on in the evening. But all in all, it could be a lot worse. I mean, you see the orange, the red, and the purple here showing up. That's the enhanced, moderate, and high risk. I guess that's not purple, that's more of a pinkish color. We don't have any of that, but it's possible that we could have any number of those events a little later on over the next couple of months. Now, let's go and talk about Futurecast just to give you an idea of how this is going to develop. Showers and thunderstorms, they will be elevated in nature, which typically means they're not going to be quite as strong. This is between about 3 and 4 o'clock. We're going to continue to heat the surface here. I mean, temperatures already are in the 50s. I do expect us to reach 70 degrees today before all is said and done. But as you can see, showers and thunderstorms will begin to bubble up first along the Highway 69 corridor, and that runs from Lufkin up into Emory and Rains County there, just for reference. I know it's not shown on the map here, but most of these storms, they're going to become more robust by about 6, 7 o'clock. And this is really when they could become severe. So again, outdoor activities, I know soccer season's getting going, baseball and softball season, people were talking about that this morning. Just have a way to get that weather information. If your coaches do decide to hold practice, it's going to be a good idea just to have a way to get those warnings on your phone. So if a warning is issued, you can take care of yourself real quickly, get to shelter, get to a sturdy building, do what you need to do to make sure that you are safe. But these showers and thunderstorms, they're going to start to consolidate to our west. Watch this. By 9 or 10 o'clock, we do start to see a line of stronger storms forming out to our west, and those will slowly push off to the east. Now, this is about 1 o'clock in the morning. Most of our western counties are done with the storms by that point. And then by the time we move into 1, 2 o'clock in the morning, deep East Texas, you guys are starting to see those showers and thunderstorms. And then those will ultimately move off to our east into sections of Louisiana. Now, what happens to us as we head into your Tuesday? I mentioned, yeah, cold front, it's going to drop our temperatures. We're going to be only in the 60s tomorrow afternoon, but the storm system's still going to be close enough to us that we do see the wraparound effect, or that wraparound precipitation that we often see on the back edge of wintry systems. That will certainly be the case. You can see Sulphur Springs and Mount Pleasant seeing a little bit of rain, and I do expect some of that to dip down to the south and to the southeast. But this is just plain old rain, nothing severe about it, and I'm not really anticipating a threat of severe weather or anything like that. But the storm system, it ultimately pushes to our east, and we're going to see plenty of sunshine. So that's a look at Futurecast. Let's kind of dive into the nuts and bolts of what I do expect as far as the main severe weather threats go. First off, this is not a high-end severe weather threat by any stretch of the imagination, but some of these storms will get rowdy tonight, and I do expect a few severe thunderstorm warnings, maybe even a tornado warning or two, just based on some of the latest data and some of the spin that we're going to have available in the atmosphere. But not really anticipating that long-track tornado event, the ones you hear about on the news, but a couple of brief spin-up weak tornadoes can't be ruled out. However, the primary threat will be the threat of hail and damaging wind gusts. So we will certainly keep an eye on that. That tornado threat, it's low. Heavy rain threat, that's also low. Flash flooding threat, I mean, it's really close to zero just because we haven't seen much in the way of rain over the last several months. So the soils, they're not necessarily all that saturated, which, I mean, in this case, it's good news, but this will be beneficial in the fact that we are going to see some much needed rain for the region. This will not bust our drought by any stretch of the imagination, but any little bit of rain we can get, we will take. I just wish it didn't have to come at the cost of all this and the risk of severe weather. So that's just kind of some of our severe weather threats. So again, damaging wind gusts and some hail, those are your primary threats, and we will have to keep close tabs on those storms as we move into tonight. We're going to kind of reset just a little bit. I do want to show you some of these temperatures that we are seeing. First off, we'll pop that up. You can see the clouds are only becoming thicker. It kind of looks ominous out there, but you step outside, you feel these temperatures, you don't think severe weather's coming, right? And yeah, I mean, this is typically a little bit warm for the potential of severe thunderstorms, or a little cool, I should say, not warm, but we will see these temperatures warm up quite a bit. I do expect our highs to generally be in the 70s today, and that's for a couple of reasons. One, you know, our wind gusts right now are anywhere from 10 to 20 miles per hour. These are actually the sustained winds. We are seeing those winds really start to kick up, and as a result, that's going to drive our temperatures pretty easily into the upper 60s and lower 70s. So that is something that will increase our chances of severe weather a little later on today. So we've got that going for us. Let's get you back to Futurecast real quick, because I just want to go through the timeline one more time. And once again, you know, this morning we're fine. We're going to see a little bit of shower activity develop in the afternoon, but most of that will be non-severe. But as we head into about 4 o'clock in the afternoon, that's when you do start to see a couple of those bubble up showers and thunderstorms forming north and southbound along the Highway 69 corridor. Again, I know this map doesn't show what I'm talking about, but that does run from Rains County near Emory into Wood County near Mineola, and then down into Smith County and Tyler, through Jacksonville, through Rusk, through Wells, through Alto, and then all the way down into Lufkin. You can see those storms beginning to develop in the heat of the day. This is really the first of 2 rounds that I expect. Through 7 o'clock, we are expecting a few of these showers and thunderstorms to get a little rowdy, especially in some of our central and southern counties. But just because you live out west, you guys are not done with the action yet. I'll show that to you in just a second. But watch this. This is 7 o'clock. You can see, you know, a couple of these discrete thunderstorms. That's not good. That's bad. We hopefully can get these out of our state into Louisiana as we move into after 7 o'clock tonight. This is the initial round of those showers and storms. Now, the secondary threat is going to be more of a linear nature. Anytime you see a line of storms, that's when you see the threat for some damaging wind gusts, and that's what's going to happen. You can see the storms become even more robust at 10 o'clock. That's at about prime time, so Chief Meteorologist Marcus Bagwell will have the latest on what the storms are doing by then, so you might want to consider tuning in for that if you're watching this. But look at that. That is your second round of strong to severe thunderstorms. It takes on kind of a linear shape or a line. Anytime you see, a straight line of thunderstorms like this, your threat and your best bet of severe weather is going to be very strong winds. And there's evidence of that on Futurecast. Anytime you see a bowing segment, that's kind of the storm almost, blowing itself out just a little bit and bowing out because the winds at the leading edge of this storm are really strong. And then, at the southern and northern points of this line, you do watch out for some rotation where, a brief spin-up tornado can't be ruled out. So from like Mount Pleasant over to Sulphur Springs, that's where I would be watching if this were to come through for, a brief spin-up tornado. But that's just something, this is one model run, that's just something we like to watch out for along these lines of thunderstorms. But you move this into time, and this bows itself out a lot more as it moves into Louisiana, but we're still seeing that shower and thunderstorm activity through deep East Texas. But notice the time. I don't like this part of it. Between about noon, 1, and 2 o'clock, that's in the middle of the night. I know I would want to be sleeping, but I'll probably be working this weather event, but you're probably sleeping at 1 or 2 o'clock in the morning. So make sure if you have an NOAA weather radio, that's cranked up. If you have the East Texas Storm Team app, make sure you have a way to wake you up, because this is occurring very late this evening where 80% of us will probably be sleeping. So just have a way to get that weather information. That's what I'm really trying to reiterate to you right now. And then as we head into tomorrow morning, severe weather threats over by 7 o'clock. We might see a little bit of drizzle and some light rain to our north. By the time we move into tomorrow afternoon, tomorrow evening, we're just seeing a couple of showers around. So good news, and all that sunshine, it is forecasted to return as we head into your Wednesday, as this model suggests. That's 6 o'clock. It will still be sunny by 6 o'clock, daylight savings time. That happened last weekend, by the way. So that's the good part of daylight savings times. Everything else is kind of awful about it, but that's my opinion. You can have your opinion about it if you want. I don't like it, but maybe you do, and all power to you. Here are the severe weather threats through 5 o'clock Monday and 5 o'clock Tuesday. That's 5 o'clock this afternoon into 5 o'clock tomorrow morning. Note the morning of that. Hail, damaging winds. Primary threats, tornado threat, that's a low, but that is certainly not zero, and that is your first secondary threat. The second secondary threat is if we were to have a scenario where we had one storm move over a single area, then we had another storm move over the same area, and then another storm, another one. That's something that's called training, and that is really the only scenario I would see heavy rain and flash flooding over a given location. But that is not in my forecast for this. But again, these other three threats, they do definitely demand your attention at this point. Now, let's quickly, go over some of the safety tips that I have for you. And as I mentioned before, it's spring break. A lot of the kiddos don't have school, so a lot of you don't have after-school activities. However, if you are at a private school or a public school, maybe your kids go to a private school that has a different spring break than everybody else, I would recommend that your kids have the East Texas Storm Team app just in case they're heading out with their friends. Maybe they're hanging out, watching a movie or something like that, a group of friends going out to the movie theater, what have you. Make sure they have an app or something where they can get that weather information. That would be the first thing. Have a way to get those watches and warnings on your smartphone. But if you don't have spring break this week, I would recommend having that app just in case, especially if you're a part of the faculty at a school. They probably require you to at least have something to so you're aware if a warning is issued. And then parents, make sure you have an app on your phone as well. Coaches, anybody else for some of those after-school activities. Just a good idea so you're not caught off guard by some random thunderstorm. So give me just a couple of seconds, and I'm going to pull up just some of the safety tips that I think will be well worth your while, just so you can review. I'm calling this kind of a warm-up event for us because, well, it is a warm-up event. We are getting into severe weather season, the primary severe weather season here in East Texas, so we might be a little rusty on being prepared for the potential of severe weather. So give me just a second. So here we go. I mean, and this is for tornado safety. I'm not saying that we have a high potential of tornadoes, but if there is a warning issued, and it's certainly something I can't rule out, it's actually quite possible on an evening like this. I just don't anticipate any strong tornadoes, but even a little weak EF0, EF1 tornado, it can do a little bit of damage. So I want you to exercise on the side of caution in this case. Now, a couple things to note about East Texas and the infrastructure here. The water table is really high in East Texas. We get a lot more rainfall than any other part of the state, with the exception of the Gulf Coast near Beaumont and Houston. Water tables are high, so we don't necessarily have the basements. But some of the more well-developed homes have basements, and that's okay. This would be the place to be. If you can be underground in a basement or a storm cellar or something like that, that would be, you know, best case scenario. But if you don't, like many people don't have basements across East Texas, the best place to be would be in an interior room of your house. So it's either that basement, or we'll go ahead and let this play out for just a little bit, or it's the central part of your house. Get as many of these walls and windows between you and the outside world as you can. That might be an interior closet, an interior room, something like that. And if you're going to be seeking shelter, first off, you know, have an emergency kit, first aid kit, what have you. And also, I would recommend, you know, either having some type of a bike helmet, a ski helmet, a climbing helmet, just if there is a powerful tornado that does some damage to your house. You don't want your head being exposed to any of that flying debris that you might encounter if the house was getting torn apart by a tornado. And again, we're just talking about the worst case scenario. And, you know, for most of you, this will not be an issue, but some people do get unlucky with these storms that track right over their property and that sort of thing. So helmets, good idea. Closed-toed shoes as well. If there's a bunch of debris, tree branches on the ground, maybe live power lines, first off, stay away from any live power lines that might be on the ground. But more importantly, you don't want to be caught off guard if there's a storm that does a bunch of damage. You want to make sure you have those tennis shoes. I mean, I've got boots on right now, so I'd be well prepared if something like that were to happen. And any closed-toed shoes, you know, minus like your sandals, flip-flops, or anything like that. Tennis shoes, running shoes, hiking boots, cowboy boots, what have you. That's going to be your best bet. So, you know, in your safe spot, and make sure you designate that before you go home today. In your safe spot, I'd like you to have a helmet. I'd like you to have a couple pairs of shoes, just in case you have to walk across any debris or down trees or anything like that. Helmet to protect your head, and first aid kit as well, you know, just in case, you know, you might have a cut or a bruise or something you don't want to get infected, then it would be a good idea to have something like that. But interior room, if you do have a well-developed house that has a basement that's well constructed, good for you. If you don't, then it will be the central part of your house, interior room, interior bathroom, a place like that. So this room right here, in this case, would be the best place to be in that event. So those are just a couple of safety tips there. Let me go ahead and see if I can find anything else that would be useful safety-wise. That's actually probably a pretty good summary for that. But it is something that is important, and I want everybody to be safe just in case, the worst case scenario happens. And, there's a 99.9% that the worst case scenario doesn't play out. It is very, very rare to have injuries and deaths from a tornado, but it does happen, and that's why we're here. That's why we're here, to keep you safe, just in case, there's a life-threatening storm heading towards your area. But I don't really anticipate this to be a life-threatening event, but thunderstorms, if you're caught off guard, they can be life-threatening, which is why, we're warning you in advance if something were to break, if a big storm were to get out in front of all the other ones and be isolated for a while and move across your community in East Texas. But once again, not a worst-case scenario by any stretch of the imagination. It's a level 2 slight risk that does encompass all of East Texas, however, and the threat will begin from west to east before it moves out just after midnight tonight. Let's go ahead and chat about Futurecast real quick, and then we'll talk about, just some of the main threats of severe weather here. Through about 4 o'clock, we're not dealing with much of anything. Just a couple of bubble-up showers and thunderstorms for our central counties, but these are going to become more robust after 4. We'll go ahead and advance this to about 6, 7 o'clock, and there you go. Notice the pickup of intensity with these storms. It's because they're moving into more of a favorable environment here. And note the time. This is 7 o'clock. A lot of people have already gotten home from work. Maybe you're streaming Netflix, streaming Hulu. Just have a way to get weather information. If we pop up on your phone, that means a warning's been issued, and it's probably a good idea to turn us on rather than keep watching the Netflix and the Hulu or anything like that, because it could mean a storm's heading towards your house, and we want you to be prepared for something like that. Also, after school activities, maybe you're heading outside for a baseball, softball, a track meet maybe, or maybe some other type of game like a soccer game or a football game is what some people like to call it, but a soccer game. And then as we move into about 9, 10 o'clock, that's when the first round of stronger storms starts to push off to the south and to the east, and then that's when our second line is going to materialize. Now with this line, the first storms should take a little bit of the instability out of the atmosphere, and the fact that this is occurring at 10 o'clock too, instability is not all that great at 10 o'clock in the evening. And the second line of storms, it's going to be a line of storms, right? So the main threat with this one, the severe weather threat's not 0 or anything like that. It's actually considerable with the damaging wind threat, but this will slowly move off to the east, and as it does, we're going to see the threat of stronger winds anywhere along this line. This is how it materializes through about 1 o'clock in the morning, and you can notice it doesn't really hold together all that well through deep East Texas, but we'll be watching out for some stronger winds from this one, and maybe a brief spin-up tornado too, which is something you never want to see at 1 o'clock on a Tuesday morning when everybody is getting some rest and is asleep. Now, as I mentioned before, the spring breakers, maybe your kid in middle school or high school is on spring break and they're hanging out with some of their buddies at school. That's fine and dandy. Just make sure they have a way to get warning information on their phone when these storms are moving through in the wee hours of tomorrow morning. But other than that, I mean, we can give the all clear by 1 o'clock for Tyler, Longview, Marshall. It's just Center and Hemphill, Sabine County, Toledo, Bend. That's the region I'm concerned about after about 1 o'clock. Now, as we head into about 6, 7 o'clock, a couple of isolated showers moving in from the north. Those will move to the south, and we'll just be seeing a couple of showers around. By 6 o'clock Tuesday evening, most of the rain is done, and this will all slowly push off to the east, and then we'll be dealing with lots of sunshine Wednesday. So last check of those severe weather threats, it's hail damaging wind threat. That is the primary concern, just based on what we're seeing with some of the upper air data and some of the other model data. I would say 60 to 70 mile per hour winds. That's the best bet in some of these stronger storms. And then if we happen to see some storms late this afternoon and early evening, hail is going to be your main threat. And we could see hail up to the size of golf balls because, I mean, that could be damaging, and we want you to be careful just in case we do happen to see that. And then that tornado threat is on the low side, but it's not 0, and it's a little higher than the flash flooding threat associated with heavy rain. So this is something that we will be monitoring all day, and we will continue to keep you updated with the latest. Now, I will have a full update on East Texas Live. That is about, don't mind me checking my watch here, it's about 25 minutes away from now, and we'll keep you updated then. And Chief Meteorologist Marcus Bagwell, well, he will have an update as this event kind of gets going at 4 o'clock. You guys have a great day.